This is the iPhone 13 Pro, and unless you've been living under a rock for the past few months, you've almost certainly heard about this phone, and you might even know a lot about it already. It launched on the 24th of September 2021, which is the day that I got mine, and as I make this review, that's almost 3 months ago. I've been using this phone as we do with our phones nowadays every single day ever since, and so I feel like I'm in a pretty good position to talk about it. So in this video, I'm going to give you my 3-month review of the iPhone 13 Pro, what I'm enjoying about it, what I'm not so keen on, and what I'm totally indifferent about. That way, if you've not already bought one, you can start to decide whether this new iPhone is right for you, whether you should opt for the regular iPhone 13, whether you should wait until next year to see what Apple do next, or whether you should consider a different phone altogether. I'm not going to list every single feature of the phone, there are plenty of videos out there already doing that. I'm going to instead just try and focus on the areas that I care the most about. The design of the iPhone 13 Pro is distinctly iPhone. Very little has changed since the 12, and I think it's only going to be if you're someone like me who upgraded from an older model that you're going to notice a big difference. I upgraded from the XS, which was the last of Apple's more rounded iPhone designs. This one is very square and almost industrial looking in comparison. It's very much in keeping with Apple's overall design language right now, and it matches my other Apple devices really nicely. I've actually got a case on this right now. This is the Mag Easy Case 2 by Pitaka, a case I reviewed a month or two ago. I'll include a link to it in the description. I'll be honest, I'm indifferent about the design. Not in a bad way, it's just all very familiar at this point. My fiancée, who has just upgraded from an iPhone 11 Pro, did comment on how heavy she felt the 13 Pro was, and that's how I felt too when upgrading from the XS. It's a noticeably bigger and bulkier device, but like any lifestyle tech these days, I think you get used to it and pretty quickly. The only thing that I'm really not keen on with regard to the design is the size of the buttons on the side. They're massive. The power button in particular, it's now creeping down to almost the halfway point of the phone, which isn't a massive issue, but you definitely notice it when you try to put this in a clamp or a holder of some description. If you use yours in a tripod or a holder for your car, for example, you now need to grip the phone lowered down to avoid pushing those buttons. Again, it's a very similar story with regard to the display. Not much has changed, at least not in a hugely noticeable way. The screen this time around is a Super Retina XDR display, Apple managing to cram the term XDR into pretty much every device they launch now, and it does make me wonder what's going to come next after Super Retina. That does sound about as good as it can possibly get. The screen is excellent regardless of what it's called. It's extremely bright, displays colours beautifully, and looks incredible when you start to watch stuff like HDR content on it. I still tend to watch most of my HDR content on TV or on my Pro display, but when I'm on a train or a plane and I want to watch something on Dolby Vision, or if I'm watching something late at night in bed, you really do start to realise just how good Apple's display game is right now. The notch somehow feels like more of a talking point than it should this year, for me at least, because I've now got a notch on my MacBook Pro, but the one on the new iPhone 13 Pro this year is smaller than last year's. Again, if you've got an iPhone with a notch already, you'll notice the size difference for all of 5 minutes before it just becomes the norm. What is new is the inclusion of ProMotion, again a welcome addition that Apple is slowly but surely rolling out to all of their more premium devices. If you're not aware, ProMotion is essentially a variable refresh rate that goes up to 120 Hz. In other words, your display can refresh or show a different image up to 120 times each second. This was previously capped at 60 Hz on the previous iPhones, and a faster refresh rate essentially means smoother animations. So for example, when you're scrolling through Safari or opening or closing an app, the animations for doing this will look and feel smoother than on previous phones. The variable element of the refresh rate is designed to reduce power consumption. The phone will intelligently switch refresh rates from very low to very high depending on what you're doing, and honestly, you'll never know this is happening. Everything just works. It's all very clever, and whilst it's the kind of technology that a lot of people are, I think, going to shrug their shoulders about, if you're like me and you geek out about things like refresh rate, it's a welcome addition. It also looks great. The performance of the iPhone 13 Pro is fantastic, but then the performance of iPhones has been very, very good for a long time now, with even older iPhones still running well several years later. I made a video about my iPhone XS, which I'd had for 3 years when I finally got rid of it in favour of this phone, and I said at the time that I still felt like that phone ran really well considering its age, and I stand by that even after using this. Does the iPhone 13 Pro run faster? Yes, definitely, but I'd expect that. But it's testament to Apple's OS division that older phones can still run very, very well, even after a few years. Face ID is fundamentally immediate on this phone. Apps open mere split seconds after you touch the icon. The only exception I've found is older apps where they're not being supported very well anymore, and that's not really Apple's fault, to be fair. It's all powered by the A15 Bionic chip with a 6-core CPU, a 5-core GPU, and a 16-core neural engine. Essentially, it's a very, very fast phone that can handle any app that you decide to install on it, along with more advanced tasks like multitasking, video editing, image processing, all that good stuff. And in case you're interested, the only difference between the processor on the 13 Pro and the 13 is a single GPU core. The 13 Pro has 5 versus the 4 of the 13. Other than that, they're identical. Again, I'm not ragging on Apple by playing down the phone here. It's just these are all incremental quality of life improvements so far, nothing that really stands out. It is a better phone, in the same way that this year's Ford Focus is probably a better car than last year's Ford Focus, but you're not likely to notice a night and day difference between the two. The same goes for battery life, and I'm not going to talk much about it other than to say that I did notice a huge difference coming from my XS, but that was a 3-year-old phone with a battery at about 80% health. I charge this phone overnight. I get up at around 7 each morning, go to bed at about 11 each night, and at that time the battery is running at 50%, maybe dropping to 30% if I've been using it more than usual throughout the day. And during the day, my phone is always with me. I check it frequently, I do some filming with it, I control our smart home with it, I reply to emails, texts and comments with it, I take photos when I'm out, all the usual. So yeah, no complaints from me whatsoever with regard to that battery. In terms of connectivity, Wi-Fi is as good as you'd expect, and the addition of 5G is great, although this is going to be dependent on both your carrier and region. I'm with 3 here in the UK and enjoy excellent 5G coverage when I'm in a supported area. I was in an IKEA a couple of months back and got 600 megabits download speed on cellular, which is not only insane, it's faster than our home fibre internet. So again, no connectivity complaints from me. Okay, so I finally feel like I'm getting to the part of this review where I can get excited about something. The cameras on the iPhone 13 Pro are exceptional, and for me in particular, coming from a XS, this is the most significant part of the upgrade by a country mile. For a start, you've got 3 cameras on the 13 Pro versus the 2 cameras I've been used to. You've got a wide camera, which is the standard camera that you'll use most of the time, but then an ultra wide and a telephoto. That ultra-wide is phenomenal for things like landscape photography, with the telephoto great for getting in on things that are a bit further away, or for more personal framing of things like portraits without using portrait mode, which I still find a bit ropey even years after it was first introduced. But it's not just about having more cameras, it's about how incredibly good these cameras are in a point-and-shoot capacity. Because that's what I think you have to remember about iPhone cameras. I've just made a huge investment in photo and video for the channel in the form of the Sony a7 IV, content coming on that in the new year. But that's a really expensive camera that's also very large and cumbersome, and to get the most out of it, you have to really learn how to use it. I will commit to bringing that camera with me on any kind of significant occasion, but there will be times where I want a photo and that camera is back at home in my studio. My iPhone is always with me. It's as much a part of my everyday carry gear as my wallet and my keys, and you don't have to learn the iPhone's cameras. Yes, you can be more creative than a lot of people are, but in general, you just grab it, point it, push the button, and the iPhone takes care of the rest. It literally is the definition of a point-and-shoot camera. In bright, sunny conditions, the camera takes effortlessly good photos, but even at night, in handheld mode, this camera can take amazing photos, which is remarkable if you know anything about how photography works. And the good news continues with video. This camera is an extremely adept video shooter, capable of shooting 4K 60 frames per second video in both regular color and Dolby Vision HDR. That Dolby Vision HDR looks really good, And if you'd like to see an example of it, my Dyson V15 review and LG G1 review videos were shot in this mode. I now tend to shoot using Filmic, which allows me to shoot in 10-bit log v3. Cinematic mode is the major new addition here, which is essentially portrait mode for video. I mentioned earlier that I felt like portrait mode was still a bit gimmicky years later, and I have a feeling I'm going to be feeling the same way about cinematic mode, although I really do like the concept. The idea here is that your iPhone will use software to create a shallow depth of field effect in video that you can even edit later on in post-production. So for example, switching focus from one person at the front of the frame to a person at the rear of the frame. And it can even do this automatically by identifying who's looking at the camera and switch to them, or switch back away from them at the right time. It's known in cinema as rack focus, and on cinematic cameras, a second person operates the focus manually at exactly the right moment, so the fact that your iPhone can now do this at all is mighty impressive. But it does come with the same halo effect that portrait mode comes with, and it's limited to 1080p. And honestly, beyond trying it out once and saying, oh, that's kind of cool, I don't know if I'd ever actually use this feature in real life. Another really excellent addition to the 13 Pro is lens stabilization on all three of the cameras, which is huge. Trying to hold your iPhone steady when taking photos or videos can be extremely difficult, and whilst we're not talking gimbal smooth here, it is a noticeable improvement and helps in the creation of smooth photos and videos. What this all results in is a camera and a video camera that you can literally pull out of your pocket, point and shoot. We were out with friends a couple of weeks ago at Hever Castle, and they took their 18-month-old baby on the carousel there. I'm not going to share the photo, I'll share a couple of more generic pictures I took on the day, but we got this amazing picture of the three of them mid-carousel while it was moving really fast in poor light conditions, and it's brilliant. It captures all three of them perfectly. And all I did was take the phone out of my pocket, point and hit the button at the right moment. That's the beauty of a good smartphone camera, and the iPhone 13 Pro very definitely is a good smartphone camera. So, who should buy this phone? Because let's not forget, this is still an expensive phone. The version I bought, the 256GB phone, cost £1,049. You can get a 128GB version for £949, or you can spend almost £1,500 and max out that storage all the way up to 1TB. I'll be honest, I still find the notion of referring to a phone as Pro a bit silly. This isn't the business iPhone or the iPhone that graphic designers need to buy or anything like that. It's just a bit more than the iPhone 13. The iPhone 13 doesn't have a telephoto camera, it doesn't have LiDAR, it has one less GPU core, it doesn't have ProMotion, it has a slightly dimmer display, and it doesn't come in a 1TB model. The Pro model, over the 13 or the 13 mini at least, is for the person who wants the best possible iPhone available and is willing to pay a premium to have it. In terms of whether you should wait until next year or not, that's a trickier question to answer in the absence of a crystal ball. Next year's iPhone will almost certainly be the iPhone 14. Speculation is that it won't have a notch, that it could have underscreen Touch ID as well as Face ID, and yada yada yada. Rumour and speculation is just that, rumour and speculation. And if a killer feature that you want on this phone, like a foldable display, doesn't come in the next iPhone, you're going to still be disappointed in a year's time. If an Android device offers you what you want right now, go and buy that. But if you're invested in getting an iPhone and you've got the cash to buy one right now, the 13 Pro is a phenomenal phone in almost every way possible, without a doubt the best iPhone Apple has ever made until September 2022. If that sounds good to you, then maybe now is a good time to pick one up. So there you go, my thoughts on the iPhone 13 Pro at the 3-month point, a phone I'm really happy with. What about you? Have you bought one? If you have, how are you getting on with it? If not, what have you got instead? Drop me a comment and let's talk about it. And as ever, if you found this video useful, do please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this in the future. See you on the next video.